Hey, outstanding. That was perfectly timed. Welcome to season 5 of IFB Interfleet Broadcasting. I'm your co-host, New York Pete, and over there is our tech director and other half of IFB, none other than Chris Moore, the Tipsy Toaster. He's our resident robot-based artificial robot, right? Android style life form, also known as in certain circles an IL5,
At
especially
least
in
I
his
have two
own.
eyes, but they don't cross as much as
Yes, and that's definitely in his own mind and
my own
world.
mind.
He is an IL5. Let me thank you all for tuning into our sci-fi pop culture show. We have deep roots in classics, the 70s, 80s, cartoons, TVs, movies. We're big Battlestar Galactica 1978 fans. We put that out right up front so everybody knows that's where we're coming from, right? We grew up with this stuff. We never look back to watch. We watched it as it was on. We grew up, in front of that TV where you had to actually turn the knob. So that's us. Welcome, and let's dive right in, guys. With that said, though, we have to do we have to toast to the fans because that's very important, and of course, welcome to everybody that's watching. Tipsy, are you ready for our toast or not?
Sure, I'm just deleting some lower thirds from the last show
Oh,
and
okay.
replacing them with all of the people we have this show.
Yeah, we got a full house, which is
Full
fantastic.
house, spectacular show planned for you, everybody.
This is a great end of year December show with a super special guest, Craig Miller, who's done over
Oh,
200
so much.
productions, films and TV, and he's done a lot of very cool animated shows that a lot of us will know once we bring some of this up if you don't already know. But in the meantime,
Wouldn't it be great to
uh,
connect to some of these people, especially like Mr. Miller there? If we could like a USB port and just steal some of the creativity, that would be
there's a way to do
amazing.
that. He's got 2 books that you
Oh
can
yeah,
actually, yeah, that's
but
how
I
you
need to
plug in.
import the creativity part of that
Well,
into the Cylon brain.
Listen, there's limits. There's
If
limits
we
now.
starts at a
Maybe in the
cold
future.
cell first,
Well,
and
we'll
then
we'll
we
talk about that. Don't worry. We got him on. That's what we got him on for. He was going to give us insights. But don't
Mr.
forget that
Marino's on tonight
today
too.
we have
He's on.
our
Well, he's on the chat. Right.
sci-fi battle consultant, sci-fi award-winning author, Bert Oliver Boehmer's with us. We have national bestseller and film executive producer, award winner, Dr. Chris McAuley is here. He's also IFB creative producer, so he's with us. And John One is going to do his segment later on as well, but he's going to be with us on here as well. And our special guest, Mr. Craig Miller, is with us. So stay tuned, guys. I know you guys are popping on. I love it. I see you. I'll be calling out your names as we get into this. And of course, once you put up questions, we try to get to those as well. But in the meantime, we are drinking tonight. We're going to start with.
We are drinking tonight. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, we're not going to vouch for everybody else, but I'm still drinking the Merlin's Munchies. I have espresso, and I have the QR code, which sometimes
Oops.
here. If you're
What
gonna get
happened to
any
you,
of the
Pete?
coffee,
That's
guys,
interesting.
please use this.
You're not there anymore. Hang on.
What the heck? What'd you do? Go back.
I
There you
don't
go.
know. I guess
Yeah. Where?
my thing
Here.
is not hooked up right.
There. You have like 5 screens. That's the problem. If you're going to get any of the coffee we're drinking tonight, guys, from Merlin's Munchies, this is the QR code. Please use this, and we get a small kickback for that. Meanwhile, back at the Bat Cave, this is.
Crap. I'll fix that later.
Grab your. Okay.
Well, tonight I'm drinking pecan pie in the sky again.
Oh, excellent. Very good.
Put the Corvette on that
last
thing.
time, especially when you put whatever you put into it. But that's
Well, it's just a little bit of. I tried to find the nastiest thing to put into it tonight. But first of all, we'll toast. Then we'll talk about the nastiest thing I'm going to put in here tonight.
All right. Well,
So, go ahead.
our motto is that fans fuel the fleet. So we want to thank all you guys that tune in. I know that a lot of you will watch this later. So thank you so much for everyone that jumps on live. And then, of course, later on, we are blessed sometimes with tens of thousands of plays, which just blows the mind. It boggles the mind that is what happens. And so thank you to all of our sci-fi fans and IFBers out there. So here's to you.
Here's to you. Fans fuel the fleet.
Keep the faith, guys. Now, I asked Dr. McAuley to not open his beer because he's drinking a Guinness. I asked him not to open it right away. And I think he cheated because I wanted to see it explode. But I think it
all over his keyboard again?
Oh, my God. It was so funny when it happened. But I think
I'm just going to add a little liqueur tonight.
Oh, that's it? Just a little liqueur?
Yeah, it's got to be great, really. Black raspberry and...
Please don't... can you be... Let's just make it
and pecan.
A healthy amount.
This is going to be a fantastic mixture. I know it is. So.
Oh, my God. Here we go. Okay, can you please stop now? Chris, what are you doing?
Oh, it smells good. Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. Oh, my God. Luckily, there's an autopilot
like cough syrup.
here.
Never mind.
All right. Well, that's too bad.
That's not too bad, but it's drinkable.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that said...
It'll oil up the Cylon joints. I'm good.
Yes, you're okay. I'll take that and run with that. Let's see. RD Moreno, who has been a past guest of ours, also an author, is live. Lola's with us, Kim Harms, and James McCoy. Thank you for joining us live, guys. Mediocre Modeler, excellent. Thank you, Kelvin, for joining us. I know
Cylon Tanks rule.
Kim is out there. Chuck Davenport, absolutely. I am all stoked for all you guys. Now, I'm just monitoring the Facebook. I know that we're on YouTube, we're on Twitch, and there's a couple of other social media.
I don't see anybody on YouTube. I don't see any text from YouTube. I only see there's one from Twitter, but that's just a restream.
Okay, well, we usually have a few of those guys on there. And like I said, we'll see you guys in rerun soon enough. Yeah, I mean, last week, 2 weeks ago, like we had 600 views right after we got off the air. So that was just okay. Thank you guys around the world. I know that we usually have some of our fans from down under that'll pop on. Dave, hey Dave, thanks for joining. Cool. All right, so let's bring on our sci-fi battle consultant, Bert Oliver. Hey Bert, what's up, man?
We just gave you a new name, by the way. Hang on. It says
Did you
it's
put it in?
working.
IFB
Hello,
Sci-Fi
guys.
There it
Good
is.
evening.
Battle Consultant. Excellent. So, Bert, you're gonna do your battle briefing, right? Bert's battle briefing.
Indeed.
Oh, fantastic. And I was not privileged enough to see any of it. I know only the Tipsy Toasters saw it. So I am now going to watch this for the first time, and I know it's going to be great.
And Bert,
You
I'm
you
I'll
you
be in the
take his word
background
for it. That's a bit risky.
if I don't catch the point in where I'm supposed to change the slide. Let me know just by, I don't know, stroking your head or adjusting your glasses or something like that. That'll be our cue.
Oh, I might do this just unconsciously. So we're gonna be done with the
We'll be
slide
done
deck
with
in
the
30
slide deck pretty
seconds.
quick.
Like,
I know
Oh
the only
man.
thing I like about the slide deck has got my favorite person on it. So
okay. I'm glad to hear that. Well, hello, Fleet. Welcome to another Bird's Battle Briefing. Well, it's the end of the year, so we're going big. We're looking at the most fundamental of all battles, the struggle between good and evil. What I really like about classic BSG is that it also tackles the theme of religion. I spent about 25 years in sales, and salespeople have a golden rule, and that is to never bring up politics when speaking with a client, and most definitely not to never ever mention religion. But Glenn Larson and his team went there, not just into the Greek mythology, which you could write off as a dead religion, but also deep into Christian mythology territory. For that, we're looking at the two-part episode, War of the Gods.
woohoo!
I knew you'd like it. So this story, this episode, the two-parter introduces a new character, Count Iblis, a man whose presence or a character whose presence pulls the series into this realm of the mythological, using timeless themes to elevate the narrative. So why use mythology in science fiction in the first place? So to understand the mythological depth of War of the Gods, both those episodes, it helps to first look at why mythology is working so well in sci-fi. Sci-fi is typically filled with alien landscapes and futuristic technology, but in its core, it's about humanity. It keeps the narrative relatable, and I truly believe that the further out into the esoteric you go, you need a counterweight of something that is relatable. And mythology in general is a foundational glue for our civilization. We're all aware of it more or less consciously or subconsciously. So this is why it provides this good counterweight. Science fiction and mythology share a very powerful connection. They both deal with questions of existence, of morality, and in general of the unknown. Mythology gives sci-fi this familiar but timeless foundation. By weaving myth into the plot, BSG speaks to something, well, almost primal in us, something that resonates with our oldest stories and maybe even deepest fears. So when they bring in Count Iblis, a figure that's cloaked in mystery and danger too, as soon as you see the guy on screen, you feel like there's something wrong about this character. So it's not just the introduction of a villain. It brings in a very powerful figure whose presence echoes some of the darkest characters in myth and religion. It's not just a villain in a story, it's a new force being introduced that tests the characters and challenges their understanding of right and wrong. So Count Iblis is when he arrives, he is mysterious and somewhat unsettling, a being with powers that seem far beyond the human understanding. And as viewers, we're meant to wonder who or what is this guy? He offers the colonial fleet, when he arrives, exactly what they need: victory, safety from the silence, a future. But like any good mythological figure, his gifts come with a hidden cost. There's strings attached. So in mythology, that's typically referred to as a trickster, or the archetype of a fallen angel, a character who isn't just straight up evil, but someone who is seductive, who's tempting people toward their own downfall. So he's in line with the archetype of Lucifer, a fallen angel. Angel fell from grace, or figures from Norse mythology like Loki, a being who tempts and tricks and manipulates. His arrival, I think, changes the game for the fleet. He promises Adama and his crew solutions for the problems, but as I said, at a price. And while he's never, in the beginning, I believe in the first of the 2 episodes, he never really says what the price is. But as viewers, we already feel the looming consequences. His power to influence others, to get inside the head, taps into something that we see in stories basically across all cultures. It's that he's this classic dangerous figure, the stranger who appears, but despite his allure, he leads others down a dark path. Dark lights and darkness, of course, this cosmic duality is a very common theme. Iblis's presence brings out this central theme in mythology, this battle in full strength. In many ancient myths, we see a cosmic struggle between good and evil forces. Think of God versus Satan in Christian mythology. This struggle is not just a battle it's not a traditional battle. They're not just after victory. It's more a test of humanity's virtues, beliefs, in our resilience. Iblis, despite his initial appearance clad in all white, almost like an angelic figure, he does represent the darkness, not just in his actions, but in the way how he influences the fleet, leading them toward doubt. He is a divisive character. He delivers temptation. His power is the ability to not just erode their faith, to erode their faith in each other, basically. So that is a timeless struggle, a mythological concept that's been with humanity for millennia. We all know what it feels like to be tempted by something that seems good on the surface, only to find it can be quite destructive or terrible underneath. And this is exactly what Iblis embodies. He is not a monster with fangs. He is the subtle, persuasive voice that exists in your head. So the heroes get tested. That's also a classic mythological theme. Heroes will always get tested, not just physically, but also morally. And in War of the Gods, BSG puts all its main characters through the ringer. We see Apollo and Starbuck, and even sometimes Adama struggling with the decisions in the face of Iblis' promises. They're presented with the classical mythological dilemma. Do you take the easy path, accepting gifts that may bring you quick results? Or do you stick to the harder, the more uncertain road, relying on your own values and strength? Apollo and Starbuck, as seen here in particular, they're pushed to question their own motivations. And this echoes tales like the Odysseus, maybe, or who had to resist the siren songs, or the trials faced by Hercules, who constantly has to choose between the easy and the right path. In BSG, this test is not just about survival, but about resisting a power that threatens to corrupt the values of the fleet, the unity of the fleet. They're no longer just fighting a war in space against the Cylons. Now they're actually wrestling with the morality of their own decisions. And that is a theme straight out of ancient myth. Now, the creators of BSG embedded these layers of real-world mythology and religious symbolism, not just as surface-level decoration. And this is one of the main things I really, really regret that we never got to see more of this in a second and third and how many ever they could have produced additional series of episodes. So we have to take what we got with the show as it aired in 78 and 79. I think they set up more here, but what we can take from what they have is they set up a very rich tapestry, like the Lords of Kobol, for example. You could look at the mirroring Greek and Roman gods. The lost human civilization of Kobol itself might recall the biblical concept of Eden, a lost paradise. So I believe there were a lot of things woven into the show that could have been brought up again and again if the creatives would have had the opportunity. And this blending of real and fictional mythology gives the episodes War of the Gods 1 and 2 this rich symbolic quality. Count Iblis is this otherworldly power, and it's also the arrival of the angelic beings of light. Are these the Lords of Kobol that make us feel that we're witnessing something beyond the conflict we've been presented with so far? It's a more spiritual struggle, if you will, an existential struggle that goes to the heart of humanity's place in the universe. In the characters are now wrestling not just with survival, but the survival of their souls. So at the core of the episode lies the question that I believe mythology has always tried to answer. What's our destiny? What's humanity's destiny? Where are we going? Are we meant to survive on our own, relying on our own abilities, or are there forces beyond our understanding that are guiding us, testing us, waiting to see if we're worthy for further progression? Iblis' presence makes us question the nature of these forces. If there's evil represented by Iblis, then there surely must be a counterforce of good, like the mysterious beings who intervene to protect humanity. And if you recall the episode, these beings, that's the only thing that unnerves Iblis, the only thing he's really seems to be worried about himself. So BSG strongly suggests here we're not alone in the cosmos, and the Cylons for that episode become almost like minor players. Sorry, Tipsy. But I believe for this episode, they really go into the background as there seem to be bigger powers out there. And do they watch over humanity or not? This idea resonates, I think, because it's something we see throughout our cultural history. Mythologies from every single culture present the notion of some sort of higher beings guiding or testing humanity. And in BSG, we see that this ancient idea of humanity being caught in a cosmic struggle, not just their own, is a test not just of strength, but character, faith, and unity. So in conclusion, what makes War of the Gods such a great dual episode? It's, in my opinion, not just the drama, the conflict, the tension, the classic storytelling mechanisms. I think it's the way this episode taps into the oldest parts of our collective imagination, using myth to explore what it means to be human. Iblis represents the temptation and the darkness. The mysterious forces of light represent our hope, our belief in something greater. And the characters of Battlestar Galactica, like the heroes in ancient myths, stand as representatives of our own struggles, fears, and aspirations, of us caught in the middle between this big struggle. In War of the Gods, we're not just watching a sci-fi story, we're witnessing this mythological battle unfold. And it reminds us of the power of choice, the importance of integrity, the internal struggle between light and dark. It's a reminder that even in the vastness of space, as it's presented to us in the show, with technology and power beyond what we have or understand today, the core questions, the ancient questions, remain the same. And that, to me, is what makes this episode great and work. And we're now still talking about it, although it aired in 78, 79. So to me, it makes it unforgettable.
Wow. That is incredible. Thank
I
you,
totally
Bert.
agree with that.
What are you wearing? What is it with you and oh my God.
It
Look
just
what you
came
did,
in.
Bert. You brought out the Ibly in Tipsy Toaster.
That was my hope. Yeah, we finally have to confront this evil, and it's best to do it right here on the show before the year is out.
Follow me, and I'll make sure there are no dropouts on your broadcasts.
That is tempting, Tipsy. That is so tempting.
Don't be succumbed. No, Bert. No.
Follow
Don't
me.
give
There will
in.
be no dropouts on your podcasts or broadcasts.
Bert, fantastic. Thank you so much for taking that deep dive. And I can tell you that as a young person, right, of 12 to 13, when I was watching this live, the idea of the mythology and what it represented as it was unfolding in front of us. I mean, it was right. It was right there. It was visualized and it was discussed, right? So it's there. It's hard to avoid, but I can tell you that as a Greek American who was brought up with, knowing all about the Greek mythology and stuff, it appealed to me on a different level, having a little bit of that knowledge already, and then seeing it in front of me. I was completely enraptured with that style that Glenn Larson had put forth. So it was, I mean, there's archetypes in everything that we're watching, but there's
Right.
just something else about it. And yeah, when I remember when Count Ibley was like, "Oh, this is the ultimate evil here," right? And the question of what was it that was in the ship that they found on that on
Oh.
not in this particular
Years
episode,
later,
but
you're still
yeah,
asking. We're at,
yeah, still asking.
Right.
So it's just incredible. But thank you very, very much, Bert. You are officially our sci-fi battle consultant here on IFB, and your segment, Bert's Battle Briefing, is incredible. And we look forward to then your next visit, your next stopover for more of your briefings.
Well, if our evil toaster will allow it and my connection is not too bad, I'm happy to rejoin anytime.
You must follow
Excellent.
Count Ibley, and he will make sure you don't drop
We
off.
need to have you come back separately. Maybe we'll do an exclusive and we'll discuss your publications, your books, and some of the other things, because I believe I caught something real quick. Was it a new release? Is it part of your trilogy? What was it that I saw you put up just recently?
Oh, the final part of the current trilogy, Galacticide, was finalist in the American Writing Awards. So I posted about that. Yep.
Ah,
Yep.
Whenever there's a
Congratulations.
little piece to brag about, I'll do it. You'll find it on my social media.
Outstanding. Thank you very much. Happy holidays to you, Bert, and continued success.
Thank you. Same to you.
Yep.
Happy holidays to the fleet.
take care.
All right. Now we have,
Wearing this
today's
thing makes you feel powerful.
what is it? Oh my God. All right. See what happens when we have props made for our fan films
That's
and
right.
you play the part. Unbelievable. Anyway, so
Too bad Diana's not
we
here. You
you'd be you'd
belong to
be you'd be
me.
hypnotizing and mesmerizing, wouldn't you? Sean Shallow from Battlestar Bulletin Board, the admin and creator of that platform, that page over at on social media. Thank you for joining us live, Sean, and Fran Severn, superfan Severn, Ms.
Yep.
or Mrs.
And
Fran
Fran,
Severn
I
will
am
be.
reaching out to everybody I know to find number 9. So Galactica 9.
All right. So Fran is in her own right another, I believe, award-winning published author. But in a past life, she was also a big fanzine or fanzine writer of Battlestar Galactica, and we are blessed to have her in the IFB inner circle. So Fran, thank you for tuning in and supporting, and we look forward to hearing from you. And maybe I think what we're going to do is we're going to have you come back with Professor Eric Patton, and we'll talk more on Battlestar Galactica and fan writing. But for now, oh, Baz from Down Under sent us greetings. And I know that you just completed his 1-to-1 scale Mark II Viper, Battlestar Galactica Viper from the Reimagined. I believe, let me see, where are you, Baz? You're in Canberra. So we're gonna have you come on, and we're gonna bring on some you with your film and some video on the completion of your Viper, and now it's mobile, and that's fantastic. So we wish you all the best. We're glad that you were able to do that. Thank you for tuning in, and let's see, another novel in the works. Fantastic. Well, so that's what we'll discuss, Fran. But in the meantime, we are very, very lucky to have been able to grab a hold of Mr. Uh, our guest, our special guest, Mr. Craig Miller, and I am trying to sort out. It's over 300 projects that he's been involved with. It's not two, as some of the sources say. It's actually, I believe, more like over 300. And I can attest to some of that because I've been trying to do a bit of a deep dive into it, and it's incredible. I personally knew of one of his books that he'd written, and that's the Star Wars Memories, My Time in the Death Star Trenches. And there's a foreword by Gary Kurtz, but there is a second book that is just being released. We'll have him mention that. So that's going to be out. So the Star Wars Memories, My Time in the Death Star Trenches is on Amazon, and there's a second book now on some of, I believe it's the other projects that he's been on, and they are incredible. They cover a lot of various shows. So without further ado, Craig Miller, why don't you jump on live with us? Thank you for joining the IFB team here, and welcome. What's what's it
Thanks for
like?
having me.
You're more than welcome. The pleasure is ours. What's it like to look back on some of these fantastic projects? I mentioned the Star Wars. Obviously, you've done a fair share of Empire Strikes Back, but we'll get into that. But looking back now, what is that all like? And you're not done. Obviously, you're still doing this stuff, but what is that all about?
Well, it's it's you don't die, you end up continuing to work, and you want to do, at least I want to do different things and try different things. So, I spent 4 years about with Lucasfilm on Star Wars and Empire and other projects there, and then I became an independent consultant to Jim Henson, Disney, Universal, Warner Brothers on a lot of different genre movies in the 80s, Superman 2, The Thing, The Dark Crystal, Muppets
Ooh,
Take
Dark Crystal.
Manhattan, Last Starfighter, lots of different movies. And then after 10 years of that, I Altered States, Crawl,
Ooh, man,
lots of
these are all my
lots
childhood
of different.
favorites.
Um, you know, uh, Return to Oz, Real Genius, my science project, Santa Claus, the movie, since we're in December. Um, anyway, after about 10 years of that, I wanted to do something more creative, and I was able to find a new career writing television, primarily in animation, but some live action as well. And kept me busy, kept me off the streets, writing for American shows. I've done shows in China, Italy, France, the Middle East, Central America, all kinds of shows from Curious George and the Smurfs to G.I. Joe and Beast Wars and different kinds in between. So just lots of different stuff keeping me busy.
Not to mention the real Ghostbusters, Mighty Max, Godzilla the series.
Flash Gordon.
Flash Gordon, yeah, I wrote a couple episodes of Flash Gordon.
Incredible stuff. And I did notice that you were the original director of fan relations at Lucasfilm.
Yeah, that was my title. Um, you know, back in the 70s, science fiction was not popular as a genre. Today, every other movie is science fiction or superheroes. So we forget that back then, people thought of science fiction as something for kids. There was an occasional A-level picture, 2001 and
Mhm.
68, Planet of the Apes,
Yep.
you know, but they were few and far between. You couldn't sell science fiction. It became very, very difficult. And studios were afraid of it. Famously, it was hard for George Lucas and Gary Kurtz, to find a studio that would produce Star Wars. And marketing was the same way. I'm making this a very long answer, but in the 70s, you marketed movies by, getting stories in big magazines like Time or something like that. Look, Life, we have magazines we don't have anymore. Or you got your actors on talk shows, The Tonight Show, The Today Show, Merv Griffin, or,
Oh
some
wow.
show like that in the middle of the afternoon. But they had to be either for big movies or big name stars. And Mark, Carey, and Harrison were nobodies at that time. They were really essentially unknown. Alec Guinness and Peter Cushing were famous in England, but in the US they were thought of as character actors or horror movie actors. You couldn't book them on talk shows either. So Charlie Lippincott, who was heading up Star Wars Corporation and doing all the marketing and licensing, knew about science fiction and comics fandom, knew that that was an audience that most studios, if they did anything in the genre, just assumed those people would show up and didn't market directly to them. Charlie came up with the idea of starting almost a year before the movie came out and building up word of mouth and marketing to that audience, the science fiction and comics audience. And I was actually part of that. I'd been attending conventions for years, and that's how I came to meet Charlie. And he hired me at first as a consultant to help him figure out where in fandom, what conventions to go to, what to do with them. And then eventually I was brought on staff full time under the title of Director of Fan Relations. I did publicity, but in addition to that, or with a special eye towards things like conventions and fanzines and dealing with bookstores, science fiction bookstores and comic shops and all of that kind of stuff, and helping to marshal, if you will, fandom. Because Charlie knew about fandom, but he wasn't part of it. Um, I was part of it, so I was given that specialty within the marketing of Star Wars and eventually Empire.
Wow.
Yeah, part of what I did after the movie opened and was a big success, we started the official Star Wars fan club, and I essentially created it.
What?
Um, I Part of my job was to make that fan club, come up with the items that would be in the membership kit, and
Oh
we had a
boy.
newsletter with we had a contest to name it within the fan
Hmm.
club. So it started out as the
I remember.
newsletter, but within a couple issues we named it Bantha Tracks.
Yep.
That was a prize-winning title. And for the first about 3 years, I wrote all of the articles.
Nope. Hang on. We'll be back in a second, folks. And we're
And
back.
Wow.
those were credited, but all the others had no credit on them, and I had written them. And that was just within within the scope of my job was creating the fan club and keeping fans um, involved and entertained. We looked at fan club companies. There are companies that run fan clubs mainly for like rock bands and things. And I just didn't like them. I thought, the people were fine, but they were more, give us your $5 and we'll send you some junky photographs, badly reproduced, and we'll, harvest your address and send you advertising for merchandise and then sell those addresses.
What? Stand by.
The Lucasfilm art department laid out the issues after I wrote them. I figured, what would I want to know? I was in my early 20s. Working on Star Wars was my first job out of college. Um, what would I want to know if I was getting the newsletter? And so that's what I put in it. Articles about, you know, how different things were done, about working in Tunisia, interviews with George and Mark and Harrison and things like that. Um, just stuff that people would find interesting, not talking down to anyone. It wasn't completely noble on our part. I mean, there was a mercenary aspect of wanting to keep people interested in Star Wars, keep them interested to see the next movie and hopefully buy merchandise and stuff like that. But the fan club was a money-losing operation, but the costs were far greater than $5 a person, just in the cost of the membership kit we produced.
Interesting. And what about your take on the action figures? Because I'm sure you had some type of involvement on how that came about.
Well, I had no involvement on that. I mean, Charlie, one of the things that was interesting about what Charlie was doing, Charlie and eventually all of us kind of revolutionized how movies were marketed. Licensing was not a big thing in the 60s and 70s. Famously, Fox made a deal with George where he got a large share of the royalties from the licensing, and we at Lucasfilm had effectively control of the licensing. We got to approve which companies got license deals. We approved the designs and the materials that the companies produced. And
Oh,
he also made deals very early. The novelization came out, what, 6, 8 months before the movie. The comics started appearing 3 months before the movie. The toys did not come out until um, basically the beginning of the next year, which was a whole complicated issue. But it was all part of the marketing of the movie, and now all movies are marketed that way. Excuse me. Um, all movies are marketed with big advance buildup, licensing early on. Of course, Star Wars licensing made a huge amount of money, so no studio has ever given a director or producer the kind of deal Lucasfilm got again, because they went into it thinking, sure, give them licensing. That's not worth anything. Uh, and it was just all part of it. My limited involvement with licensing, because we had an art and publishing department who did all those approvals, was they would sometimes call on me because I was a nerd, and so I could tell them that character's name is something or other. Because, when we made the first movie, most of the characters and most of the vehicles had no names. They didn't need names because no one ever mentioned them by name. If they were called anything, it was on stage and it was something about what they looked like. But once you're making toys, every toy needs a name. It needs a label on it for the licensing. So Kenner, really, Kenner was our licensee at the time. Mattel later acquired them. But Kenner needed names. And so all the characters suddenly had to have names created for them. And by the time of Empire Strikes Back, when the script was being written, every character and every machine had a name included in the script, um, because it might be needed and probably would be at the rate Kenner was producing different toys.
Wow. I have to ask you about your setup in the office. Um, do you have are those props or are those just
Oh,
what
in my current office?
yeah.
Um, well, I'm not sure exactly what you can see, but there's in what I think is in your view, there's a bunch of photos behind me. Deep behind me, that's my file room. And there's a bunch of file cabinets. And there's mostly toys, I think, back there. Um, there's a big plush dragon hanging above in the archway into the room. Um, and no real props. The only actual prop I have is I have a, you can't see it. It's off to my side. Um, is a snow speeder from Empire Strikes Back, one of the miniatures from
Whoa.
ILM that was a gift from Gary Kurt.
I
Um,
knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I had to bring it up because I was like, these are the things everyone overlooks, especially when we're doing an interview. It's like, oh, it's just nice, but I was like, I knew there's got to be something special. Fantastic. I love it. I mean, your career is incredible in and of itself. I wanted to ask though, in terms of your animation that you've worked with,
mhm.
which are the shows or the episodes that stand out the most from, I mean, you've done so many, but are there any that kind of
Well,
stand out?
yeah, there's some things that were, they were just jobs. Um, yes, I wrote on this show, and I didn't particularly love it. I didn't hate it, but it was just it was a show I was hired on, and I wrote 2 episodes, 6 episodes, whatever it was. And some of them were a lot of fun, and some of them were, and all of them you get to, you know, use your creative juices and your abilities, and quoting, listening to Bert, letting the mythology play through you and all the classic stories that are part of mythology, come from history, that come from all great literature. Um, but other things were more were more fun, more dear, more interesting. I created a show called, or co-created with my then writing partner, Marv Wolfman, who a lot of people know from comics. We created a show called Pocket Dragon Adventures, which was a comedy adventure fantasy show. And it played all over the world. We were on the BBC in England 7 days a week for 6 years. Um, and that was exciting. Other shows that the first show I was hired to write on was the real Ghostbusters. So, that was exciting. It was fun. It was my first job as a script writer. I wrote 3 episodes for the first season of the show, and then I moved on to another show at a different studio called the Bionic Six, which many people have never heard of because it only played for a couple of years and then never went into syndication for weird contractual reasons. But I wrote 10 episodes of that show. It was a comedy superhero series. Um, and we just did bizarre stuff. So that was fun. Curious George, which I grew up reading Curious George. I think we all grew up reading Curious George. To then be able to write um, episodes of that show was terrific. And now there are actually new Curious George books based on my scripts and Curious George toys based on things Curious George did in my script. So it's like this weird, um, you know, life coming around in circles. What I grew up with, I'm now creating for other little kids to grow up with. So there's all kinds of different things. And of course, working with different people who are, give you a great deal of pleasure because writing novels, which I know some of your compatriots there are novelists, is much more solitary and you are writing what you want to write. There are factors that get put on top of it, and there are editors who give you notes. But when you're writing television or movies, you're working with dozens of people who come into play on bringing it to life, and many of them give you notes and affect how you tell the story. Um, some for the better, some you just have to deal with. There's my new book, More Movie Memories. I talk about a number of shows where um, we would get notes, and it's like, what is this guy thinking? Uh, you know, um, I wrote it. I wrote a couple of episodes for Showtime's live action horror series, The Hunger, and we did one episode about a succubus. And between the time the show started and we actually started writing, it was the first of 2 seasons. Um, Showtime sort of realized this was in the like 2005, 2008, something like that. Showtime suddenly realized we're a premium channel. We can have naked people having sex.
Oh,
We don't have to do it like broadcast. So suddenly all of these episodes had to become sexier. And and except for this one episode, which I'm talking about, The Hunger, is the only episode of the entire series that isn't based on a short story. All of the others, they acquired the rights to short stories and adapted them. And in many of them, there was no sex in the short story, but now in the episodes, there is sex. In this episode called Room 17, it's about a succubus. So while there was going to be sex in it, there wasn't going to be as much sex. And one of the scenes, the succubus materializes. I won't go into all the details of that, but as part of sort of forcefully seducing our lead character, she bites the button off of his shirt. And I got a note from one of the producers saying to be sure. Yes, that's our succubus. That's from her materializing in the episode. Um, we got a note saying, make sure it's clear that she's biting the button with her teeth. And, my thought was, is there something else you bite with? And as you're as a writer for hire, I don't own the show. Um, I have two options. I can say, what the hell are you talking about to the producer? Or I can say, oh, yeah, good. I'm gonna make sure to do that. And so we made sure to do that. And in the scene description, it says bites the button off his shirt with her teeth. How it could have played differently, I have no idea. But you get notes sometimes, and they they give you good stories to tell later. Um, but I mean, you get joy from you get joy and and frustration from writing. You know the story you want to tell, or at least parts of it, coming up with it, making it work, making it fit. Um, Television has parameters. It has to be exactly this long. You know, Short stories, novels, you've got a lot of room. You don't, you know, it, but at the same time, the handicaps are tools for making it better. You come up with ways to solve the problems, to solve the restrictions by being a good storyteller, hopefully, and coming up with interesting ways to get around it. Um, Short stories are terribly difficult to write, keeping ideas contained into the size you
Oh yeah.
have to. You don't have the luxury of, "Yeah, I'll just write another 5,000 words." Um, so every form has its restrictions, every form has its things to make you work harder and hopefully better. But there was a lot of fun and a lot of excitement in all and many of the different shows I worked on.
Incredible. As a matter of fact, our very own Dr. Chris McAuley has a couple of questions that he would like to bring up. So, if the Tipsy Toaster is still able to work his fingers, he's going to press some buttons, I believe, and bring on our esteemed producer here on IFB. There we go. So,
I gotta get the
welcome,
audio up.
Dr.
Give me a
McAuley.
second. Right now.
Right.
There
Go.
we go. Hello,
There we go.
everybody. Well, yeah, I don't want to interrupt your flow, Craig. Firstly, I want to toast you in your career,
Thank you.
right? Secondly, I'm a big fan of the real Ghostbusters. I have been since I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
But there's something that I have to bring up. There's one of your episodes that's absolute pure genius.
Oh, well, thank you.
And it's called.
I've been called many things.
Well,
Not always that.
do you remember Ain't Necessary So? Ain't
Necessarily so. Yes, of course.
Right? You have a lot of Star Trek in jokes in there.
Yeah.
And one of the one of the ones I loved was the reference to Grace Lee Whitney. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah. One of the rules, this was the first season of the real Ghostbusters, and one of the rules had been nothing in outer space, nothing to do with aliens. It was all ghosts or something you could broadly, put within the scope, spooks, spirits, what the way they talked about in the movie. Towards the end of the first season, J. Michael Straczynski, was the showrunner for us. He later went on to create Babylon 5, among other things. Um, Joe said to me, let's come up with a science fiction episode, a Star Trek episode. And I came up with this idea. And at the time, pretty much this was 1986, I think. All of the second level Star Trek actors, we're talking original series, um, were doing voice work, character voice work. And so when I came up with this and we were doing it, Joe was like, this is great. We will hire all of these guys. Shatner and Nimoy were not doing voice work, but all of the others were. And so all of the characters, it all takes place not in deep space, but on the first Earth orbit space station. So that was the setup to get them up in space. And something shows up and they hire the Ghostbusters to get rid of whatever is haunting this new space station. Um, but in the end, they did not hire any of them to do the voices. And some of the actors, the voice actors, either couldn't do the character voices or wouldn't do the character voices, but a few of them did. The one doing Chekhov did it. I forget all of them, but Chekhov we played with the bad Russian accent and stuff like that. And yes, there was at the very beginning of the episode a character who was supposed to be Yeoman Rand, Grace Lee Litany character, comes running into the bridge of the space station and yells, "Help, a ghost!" And gets our story started.
Yeah.
And I describe her in the scene description for it the way Yeoman Rand was classically described 1,000 times with an elaborate basket weave hairdo. And animation at that time was all being sent to Japan, and the overseas animators to this day, no matter what country it's sent to, never ask any questions. They just take what they receive, it's translated for them, they do the animation, and it comes back. And the animation came back, and she is wearing an overturned basket on her head.
Yeah. Can I ask one more question about this, and then I'll clear off?
Of course.
Is the creature in that episode inspired by the Thing?
Oh, um, you know, not deliberately.
Okay.
Not deliberately. And in animation, no matter what you do as a writer, it always ends up what the artists end up wanting to draw.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
incredible.
There's one more last observation about this episode. Because I'm a massive fan of the real Ghostbusters.
Okay, let me just interrupt one thing. A mild brag. That particular episode what ended up being the title episode on the first Real Ghostbusters home video release.
Yes.
It was called the bird. Oh, I'm sorry, not that episode. It was one of my other episodes, The Bird of Kildarby and other stories.
So the reason why I'm belaboring the Star Trek point is I have a bit of a connection with Star Trek. But what you did was you were a bit of a prophet as well, because you created the name of a character that then was used again in Enterprise 14 years later.
I'm sorry, say that again?
So 14 years after that episode was aired, Star Trek Enterprise used a character called Sato. Ensign Hoshi Sato. So I'm going to clear off now. I just wanted to say that, and thank you for all the work you've done for pop culture, because it's greatly influenced so many of us. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Craig, we we wanted to make sure that since you've actually put pen to paper and have codified, you've memorialized a lot of your stories and what you've experienced. You've had the book, your first book out that I mentioned earlier, which is Star Wars Memories: My Time in the Death Star Trenches. But you actually have a second work that you've told us is basically is it out yet? I
Yeah,
think.
it is out. It came
Okay.
out in July. This, being an author, you always have copies nearby. This is
Oh yeah.
the first book. Um, and the second book, which, like I say, came out in July, is called More Movie Memories. And this is actually a photo of me with Jim Henson and a bunch of the Muppeteers from Muppets Take Manhattan.
Very cool.
Um, and it's a little schizophrenic. The first book is all stories from my years at Lucasfilm. The second book is one third more Star Wars related stories, one third um, stories about working on other genre movies throughout the 80s, the ones we mentioned, and a lot more. Um, and then the last third is all about writing animation and other things I've written and been involved with in the last 30 years. Um,
That's incredible. For the record, myself and Bert, we were both members of the Star Wars club, and we both received the original Bantha tracks. So that's really really cool. I think I still have my issues. I would imagine that Bert probably still has his as well. Yep, thumbs up. And as a matter of fact, for the record, Craig, we will be putting links to the both of your books on Amazon in the chat, and we're going to put those up
right?
after we broadcast. They look tremendous, and we will definitely be picking those up personally. And I hope the fans
Did I lose you, Pete? No.
whether TV or film that you've done that we are all fans of. We love your work. Thank you so much for coming on, Greg. We'd love to in the future if we can, maybe sometime next year, if you have the time and honor us again with some more of your insights. We would love to have you on.
I'd be happy to. Give me a shout. We can set up a time and talk about whatever you want to talk about. Well, I did not write for the Muppets. When in the 80s, I was a publicity and marketing consultant to all these guys and worked with them on that aspect. I didn't write the thing. I didn't write for the Muppets. Um, but yeah, what happened was Gary Kurtz, who had become a friend when I was at Lucasfilm, was producing The Dark Crystal with Jim Henson, and he asked me to come and work on that movie. And during that, I was on that for like a year and a half. I got to know Jim, and Jim asked me to stay on board and continue working with him on Muppets Take Manhattan. So that's sort of how I flowed into those two particular projects. Um, Jim Henson is or was everything you want Jim Henson to have been. I mean, he was brilliant, he was creative, he was funny, he was caring, he was the nicest possible guy you could know. Um, I tell stories in the book about things he did and said while we were working together.
Mm.
Um, that just, you know, it wasn't like he cured cancer, or something, but he went out of his way to be nice. He went out of his way to do things. We were in Baltimore in the summer of 1983 at the World Science Fiction Convention, doing promotion for both the Dark Crystal home video release and the Muppets Take Manhattan, which was going to be coming out later. I can't remember if it was later that year or the next year. And we set up there's a touring exhibit, The Art of the Muppets, that goes to museums and stuff with various Muppets and Dark Crystal characters and other Henson Show puppets and such in glass cases. And we set up a partial version of that in the convention center. And Jim did a talk for the attendees of the convention, big ballroom, a couple thousand people, adults, talking and doing funny stuff and taking questions. And then, because he wanted to, we set up in the lobby of the convention center, in the middle of the exhibit, one chair that Jim sat in, and all of the kids who were attending the convention, anyone 12 and under, could sit on the floor around him. No adults. Parents could stand around the perimeter, but they were not participants. And Jim did like an hour and a half just talking to the kids, telling them stories, taking their questions. He brought out Kermit and performed Kermit
Oh,
and
wow.
just did all of that because he wanted to, not because we needed to as part of the marketing of the films or anything else. He just thought it would be a good thing to do.
Wow. Very, very cool.
We're not hearing him, by the way. He's not connected. Hang on. Now try it again.
Okay, sorry, Craig. I have one question, and it's a bit of a personal one. Have you ever worked with Terry Hardin Jackson?
Oh, Terry Hardin Jackson, sure. In fact, in Star Wars Memories, there's a whole section about how I met Terry.
She's one of my best friends, and she's a mentor to me. So
I
that's
don't
why I'm
think-
asking.
I don't see Terry very often anymore, but 3 days, I'll try to tell this briefly. 3 days before The Empire Strikes Back was going to premiere at midnight in Hollywood at the Egyptian Theater, I was driving from my home in West LA to our Lucasfilm offices in the San Fernando Valley. We were near Universal Studios. And I happened to drive past the Egyptian on my route, and there were people standing in line at like 9 in the morning. And I'm going, what's going on? There's no movies playing at the Egyptian this early. Why is there a line? So I parked and I walked over, and there were like 5 or 6 people standing in line. Terry was the first person in line.
Oh,
And they explained to me that they wanted to be the first ones to get in to see Empire.
Yeah.
And this was, today people stand in lines. There's this whole line con thing where people will be in line for 2 or 3 days. In 1980, that was not a thing. People didn't do that. Standing in line because you're not going to be able to get into the next show. You're going to get into the show after that. That was kind of unusual. Standing in line on, Tuesday for the movie that was going to open at midnight Wednesday, unheard of. So I talked to them for a while, and I gave Terry my card, and I gave all of them my card. And I said, I think this is great. I'm going to call some press and see if we can get some people to cover this. And I went into the office and I started contacting press, and I got a phone call from Terry. The manager of the Egyptian Theater wanted them to leave.
oh,
She told me about this. Yeah.
He didn't like them cluttering up his forecourt.
Yeah.
And I said, don't worry. I've got press coming. Just stay there. I'll call him. And I called him, and honestly, he was so full of himself. Not that I'm a big deal or anything, I'm not, but hey, we've got this big movie that your company paid a lot of money to have open at your theater. This is all part of it. The press is coming. And he was like adamant he didn't like these people loitering around his theater. So I called the regional vice president for, I can't remember what chain it was at the time, um, but whatever managed, owned Egyptian theaters back then. And the regional vice president called him and said, do not make those people leave. And he was still very upset. They had to stay on the sidewalk, not on the property of the theater, which is this big open courtyard. Like, if you're not familiar with it, it's sort of like Grauman's Chinese, where, you've got that big area with all the footprints. There are no footprints, but there's this big open courtyard. Um, he didn't want them in the courtyard. And he completely missed a bet because all of the stores around for the 2 days these people were in line were bringing, the little restaurants were bringing and selling them sandwiches and drinks, which he could have sold from the snack bar and didn't. And they were selling them t-shirts and things. But we had the press come out and they got coverage and the line built and grew. And by the afternoon of the evening it was opening the at midnight, um, there were, it seemed like thousands of people, lines going around that giant block for the midnight show, the 3 o'clock show, the 6 o'clock show. And I was there all afternoon and evening, working the line, handing out buttons, talking to people about how excited they were, stuff like that. Anyway, that's all in the book, that story.
I
That is
actually,
fantastic.
I bought your book, and I got, and hope you don't think it's rude. I'm listening to you, but I was reading through it. I've got 30% through the book. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Really enjoy it, mate.
Thank you so much.
Terry just sent me a message to say hello to you,
Ah, good.
and she'll probably connect up soon. But thank you for
Could
that.
be
I just wanted to ask
could
that
be good to
question.
see her.
Oh, fantastic. Craig, we put the links in the chat. So for any of the fans that watch that are on live now or anyone that watches this later, we have the links up in the chat. If you want to get the book, either one of the two, just click the link. It'll take you right into Amazon.
Boy, the internet's jumping tonight.
Days.
Thanks,
Thanks
mate.
for having.
Take care. All the best. Very, very cool. Man, what a privilege to have someone that has all that rich background and that we actually have, our own favorite connection to one way or the other. Like I mentioned, Bert and I happen to both be members. I remember when the Star Wars fan club was, going through what the name it, the whole Bantha track thing. I remember that distinctly. And of course, I already knew that Dr. McAuley's one of his favorites was the real Ghostbusters because I remember watching and enjoying that show myself. I did bring up Mighty Max. I know that Craig Miller actually, I think, worked on maybe a couple episodes, but my son really loved Mighty Max, and so I got to watch that with him and enjoy that. So there's all these, yeah, there's all these, great connections to all of your work. So that makes it a lot more, special. Oh,
I
absolutely.
mean, it. Yes, it all. In one sense, it always comes back to it's a job, but it's so nice that when your job can bring pleasure or happiness or people enjoy it. So, um, you know, um, it's because you're working in a vacuum, whether you're writing a
Mm.
novel or a TV script, you don't know if anyone's going to like it. Um, we never knew with obviously people were buying tickets to see Empire. We know they like Star Wars, but there was no response to Bantha tracks. It was going out, and I was hoping people liked it, but it wasn't until many years later at like Star Wars celebrations or something where I'd run into people who had gotten it as a kid or as a teenager or a young adult, um, but who had gotten it and now tell me how much they enjoyed it, which is great to hear because you're working in a vacuum. You have no idea what's going on.
Oh, well, I'm glad that you got a chance to at least hear it. I know you've been to conventions, but at least from our group here on IFB, we love your work. And so here's to you, Craig. Thank you so much for doing everything that you have done and
Thank you,
continue to
guys.
do, right? That you continue to do. So all the best, and we'll see you on in the next year in 2025. We look forward to having you back.
I'll be happy to do it. Just reach out and we'll set something up whenever you want.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
There's,
All
there's,
right.
Okay.
yeah, there's so many
Thanks,
questions.
guys.
Yeah, there's so many questions I want to ask about so many different. I'm gonna have to get the
Well,
books.
that's why we're gonna have him back.
Gotta get the books.
That's why we're gonna have him back, man. And
Gotta get the
yeah,
books.
that's right. So we definitely now that Dr. McAuley, I mean, he's 30%. I mean, by the time we finish this broadcast, Dr. McAuley will have read the whole book, but that's just his way of being, speed reading and all.
It's compelling stuff.
Oh, well, we're
It's
gonna get it.
I'm
We're
telling
getting
you,
it.
I've got I got the first one on Kindle, so I'm
Well,
reading through it now,
hey,
and then the
Tipsy, bring him
second
up.
one. So like this book's great. It's incredible. This is a
Cool.
Christmas stocking filler. Right, this is
Outstanding.
what you want. This is for the ultimate. This is the ultimate book for Star Wars fans. But
Well,
the second book I've now because it's I can only get paperback for it, so I've got it in order now to come in.
I hope you
Um,
used our link there, Dr. McAuley.
I did, yeah,
Fantastic. Very good.
I
All right.
did.
So now that you're here with us, we have a few things that we'd like to discuss because you are as most of the fans here on IFB know, you not only are an author, writer, IP creator, and award-winning film executive producer for independent films, but you also have a day job and you're heavily involved with video games and the video game industry, and you write reviews for games and the like. And I know that we're going to definitely touch upon two specific games. One of them is the new Indiana Jones game.
Mhm.
And I remember when, yeah, I remember when you started, you were telling me that you were going to play it. And then you told me that, oh my God, this is great. But
Yeah,
we're also going to discuss 40K. So we're going to talk about
yeah,
the 40,
40K is
right?
really
Okay.
important.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've actually, and this is not a revelation, but I've worked on Indiana Jones games. I've been working on Indiana Jones games, not this one, but specific Indiana Jones games of the past.
Okay.
So I've got a handle on Indiana Jones video games. I'm going to tell you now, this game
Yeah.
is fracking amazing,
Oh, excellent.
right?
Okay.
So one of my friends, Kate Edwards, she's involved in archaeology and all this kind of stuff, and she was making sure that everything in the game was authentic,
Oh, wow.
every piece.
So we
She's
do.
she's got scholarship in Egyptology, all of that
Wow.
stuff.
We
But
have a
the
graphic. Hold on, Doc. We have
yeah, sure.
uh Tipsy, can you bring up
Working on it.
okay. Yeah, because we did bring up there are some graphics that we have some representations for you to go along with your background on the Indiana Jones. You were very excited when it came up. We had
Yeah.
separate conversations in the moment when you were doing that. as well as the 40K too. So
Mhm.
both of those you were very excited about in terms of gameplay and how they just the mechanics and so I mean this is really cool stuff. But let's also mention the fact that you have some very unique insights, including some upcoming publications. That can Tipsy, if you're able to go to the second slide after
Working on
this.
it.
Okay. So yeah, this we'll discuss, but here it is. This is
Here we
an
go.
IFB special.
So this is a very authentic Indiana Jones experience. It's more authentic than the last two terrible films, and they were terrible films. Let's not sugarcoat them. They were
Right.
absolutely dreadful. When Indy went off figuratively and literally into the sunset with Last Crusade, that probably was the swan song, right? Should have been it, John. This game, I'm going to tell you now, this is a fantastic extension of the authentic Indiana Jones universe. Tony Todd's in it as well as the bad guy. So the late great Tony Todd is in there as the bad guy. This is not a shoot 'em up. It is in first person. It's not like Uncharted. If you played the Uncharted games or the latest Tomb Raider games, it's not like that at all. There's a lot of emphasis on stealth, discovery, investigation, but it's all wrapped up in this very authentic Indiana Jones story about the occult and what the Great Circle is. And you know what? You get to beat the okay. What's the Battlestar Galactica word for
Frack?
okay? Not it's not frack. Is it Felder card? You get to beat the Felder card out of Nazis and fascists, and authentic Nazis and fascists as well. Because in the first few levels of the game, you go to the Vatican, and you get to beat up some of Mussolini's mob.
Nice, excellent.
But one of the most powerful things about this game is the sound effects of the punching. It does actually sound like you're beating the Felder card
Yes.
out of I hate using these words out of the bad guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
If a bad guy pulls a gun, you can use your whip to knock it out their hands. There's a lot of platforming which works really well in first person. It does go to third person once you get into the cutscenes, and it looks at Harrison Ford and it sounds like Harrison Ford. But special mention has to be given to the chap who is taking on the role of Denham. Do you remember Denham? He was the museum curator guy. That chap does an amazing voice for Denham, or his character name's Marcus Brody. And it's great to see Marcus Brody back. And we have a little bit of, the first level you play through the start of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, nice.
And that's how you learn. But it's out in Xbox Game Pass. It's out in Xbox. It's out in PC. It will be out in PlayStation 5 next year. Probably you want a PlayStation 5 Pro to get the full effect of the graphics. But it is, I think, between this and Indiana Jones and Fate of Atlantis, if you're old enough to remember those old LucasArts point-and-click adventures, it is a perfect Indiana Jones game. Go and get it.
Excellent. Okay, so there's a thumbs up for that. Now, in terms of the 40K, Doc, let's talk about the 40K games that you have to have for Christmas. That was the
So I was incredibly ill for the last week and a bit. I had something called walking pneumonia, which is dreadful.
Oh no.
It's doing the rounds in Alberta. So you kind of feel you can do stuff.
Yeah.
But it is proper pneumonia. It was dreadful.
Oh boy.
So during that week I started to delve into 40K a little bit more. So what I've been doing is I have been compiling a list of the top 5 Warhammer games. Actually, it's not just limited to 40K. The top 5 Warhammer games that you need to play. They're actually on sale at the moment on the PlayStation Store and on Steam. So starting at number 5, Warhammer 40k Inquisitor Martyr. If you enjoy Diablo style games, that sort of action RPG style games, you will love this. It's gory, it pulls no punches. You're an Inquisitor in 40k, and you get to kill all manner of chaos heretics for the glory of the Empire. You can play as different classes. I play as a Crusader. He's quite a strong Imperial guy, a heavy gunner. But you can play as a tech priest. You can play as one of the sisters. You can play now as a zealot as well. Fantastic game. Go and check that one out. The story, if you follow the campaign's about 30 hours long. If you get the Prophecy DLC, which is about $5, it'll extend out to about 50, 60 hours. But there's a lot more to do in that. So you command a rogue trader vessel. You go, you investigate all different kinds of planets in the warp. You level up by destroying Tyranids and all these kind of, the word bearers are in there as well. It's Chaos Marine Legions. It's a fantastic game. Go and play it. Anyway, so that's number 5. So number 4, we then dip into another Diablo style game. It's more fantasy based, but it's Warhammer Chaos Bane. And this is where you get to pick as one of the fantasy classes. My favorite's the Witch Hunter. Suffer not the witch to live. Oh. I love the Witch Hunters. So they like a little bit of riposte with their rapier, but they're damn good with their double pistols as well. But this is another fantastic Diablo style game where you play through the real authentic darkness of old world fantasy Warhammer, not the Age of Sigmar, which I think is a massive misstep for Warhammer Fantasy. Age of Sigmar actually is quite weak for Warhammer Fantasy, but this is proper Warhammer Fantasy, so play that. So number 3, again, a fantasy game, Warhammer Vermintide 2. You want to destroy a lot of Skaven with friends, smash their skulls in, this is what you want. My favorite class in that is actually the guardsman, because I love hacking Skaven to bits. But with Vermintide 2, you also have some of the sort of the fantasy chaos warriors as well in there, who are damn hard to beat. But it's a co-op game, very similar to Left 4 Dead 2. It's fantastic. Now, number two on my list, which is very similar to Vermintide because it was created by the same development studio. It's just been released on PlayStation 5. Darktide. Darktide is a 40k version of Vermintide. You start off as a prisoner. You get requisitioned into the Imperial Inquisitorial fleet, and you get to customize your character, go out and completely destroy chaos in 40k. It is very violent. If you have an aversion to violence or seeing blood, do not play this game. But it's incredible fun. I love taking a shotgun and blasting people's heads off of this one. It's fantastic. So that's another recommendation. And the number one choice is something completely different. It's a CRPG. So if you like things like Baldur's Gate, especially Baldur's Gate 3, Rogue Trader is what you want. Rogue Trader is a massive game. It's about 60, 70 hours. But you can create your own character. You become, you get control of a Rogue Trader fleet. You can be allied to Chaos or Order, and everything you do does make it. Does change the game. It is turn-based combat, so you do need to know that going in. But it's a lot of fun, and there's a massive amount of 40k lore in there. So that's my top 5 games that are on sale right now. Excellent. And then there's a game that's not on sale, called Space Marine 2. And we've
Ah,
covered Space Marine 2 before when Clint Langley was on.
yes.
He was a artist for 40K, one of the biggest artists for 40K. We gave away a code, and we're grateful for that. The makers of Space Marine 2 gave IFB. But if you've got a little bit of money for Christmas, Space Marine 2 is what you want, baby. Free DLC, lots of violence, lots of action, multiplayer is fantastic, co-op and PvP as well. And they have a lot of new free content coming in the first quarter of 2025. So go and check that out if you're a bit flush.
Wow. Well, fantastic. Now, if you want to delve into the lore of 40K, I can tell you that you're familiar, Doc McAuley, with the Warhammer 40,000, the Ultimate Guide,
Yeah.
that was just released very, very recently.
I was actually given that by Games Workshop. I suppose I saw it, I'll tell you now. I'm now a writer for 40K. So I was given that book.
Fantastic.
I was given that book by Games Workshop because there's a lot of lore. There's a
Well,
lot of learning.
congratulations.
So I've started writing for 40K now officially, and those things will be coming out next year
Well,
through the Black Library. So I'm very grateful for the guys
heck
and the
yeah.
editors, because it is quite daunting to even touch this. It was actually IFB that pushed me forward in this. So after our interview with Clint Langley, who I've worked with, on super stuff, he called me up and he said, "You got to do 40K, man." And
Told you.
and we kind of pushed forward with that.
Cool.
So anyway, that's for next year, to talk about next year. But yes, the Ultimate Guide is amazing. It's about 200 pages,
Yeah.
and it's beautiful. I'm not allowed to have physical books in my house. I mean, I'm very thankful I get offers copies of my books, and then I give them all away, as Pete knows. So a lot of my stuff is actually digital, because I actually find it easier to reference if I'm working on a franchise. But this thing is beautiful, and one of the striking things about the Ultimate 40K book is the paint figures. And
Yes.
I've swore when I start to slow down in my careers, I'm going to start learning how to paint miniature figures.
Cool.
When I was really sick last week, I started watching how to paint miniature figures. And yeah, like the primer, and then all
Yep.
the different types of things.
Ink wash and
And
everything else.
yeah, I want to do that. That's actually one. I mean, I've got my Stokeverse miniature figures up here, and I wrote for a Terminator miniature war game, Terminator Genesis miniature war game, and I have those now. They were given to me a couple of weeks ago, and they're all sitting there, and they're lead figures. They're the old lead figures. Yep. So I do
Or
want
pewter.
to. Yeah, I do want to paint those. I'd like
Yeah.
to do that. So yeah, that's I think that's one of my ambitions. I think in 40K is to do that.
Well, there's a couple of books that I've been going through in the 40K universe that I have to recommend, and that is there's a series, and The Dawn of Fire, and it's an 8-book series in the modern world, so to speak, of 40K. So the Primarch has been revived, and Gilliman now is 10,000 years later is now back, and so he's on a crusade, and there's 8 books, starting with the Avenging Sun. Gilliman is brought back, the only Primarch to live after 10,000 years, and it goes through him and what goes on all around him, and there's conspiracies, and it's just fantastic. I'm on the last book. It's called A Hand of Abaddon, Dawn of Fire, Warhammer 40,000, book 8. Highly recommend the series, and there's these 2 other books that I literally just finished in between which were I had these on my list pre-ordered, and that is the Carcharodon two books, the Red Tithe and Outer Dark. And it's specifically on this exiled chapter that was sent away. We don't know why. It's on the fringes of their galaxy, and they are loyal, but they were exiled, and their backstory is unclear. They hint at it. It's one of the oldest chapters around, but they fight for the Imperium, but all the way out, like in the middle of nowhere, and they are incredible. The stories are phenomenal, super well written, and so if you guys, any of you are, looking to dabble or looking to get into the Warhammer world, I mean, the series that I just mentioned, the Dawn of Fire is definitely one that you should pursue. And then in terms of the Carcharodons, that is fantastic. It's military sci-fi on steroids. So I'm just it's incredible. The books are just fantastic. So I've gone through all of those and quickly trying to catch up this holiday season. There are links in our in the chat, guys. So if this is anything that you guys are interested in, please jump on those. Bert, we're gonna put links to your books as well since you're here with us tonight. So we'll get those in. I hate to burden you, Tipsy, but being that Bert's here, in case anybody wants to catch any of Bert's novels, we might as well put those up in the chat as well. But there's a couple of other things that we wanted to discuss.
Can I
McAuley.
just interject 1 second about Bert? I'm incredibly proud to be an executive producer in the show and sit and listen to Bert's analysis of Ibley. Right, so it was fantastic.
Oh yeah,
it was very entertaining, insightful. As a theologian, I always kind of move towards that whole thing with Ibley, but a lot of fans may not know some of that deep arcane mythology and Jungian the Jungian archetypes. So it was great to have Bert on and to provide some elucidation on that. So thanks, Bert. That's a fantastic segment, mate, and I look forward to more.
And congrats on the new award that he received as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Well done. Oh yeah. So tonight, Dr. McAuley, you have a new book that was published.
Yeah. People are sick of hearing about this. Chris has got a new book. Chris has got this. Chris has got that. Yeah, but it's a very special book. And where this comes from was, Pete and George. Probably George is here, isn't he? He's watching. He must be watching.
Oh yeah.
So Pete, you and George came to me with an idea, and I took that idea and ran with it, and created something called the Oddfellow Investigations. So this is a supernatural gothic noir mashup, which is interesting because it blends quite well. And it's about a detective inspector from Scotland Yard called John Fellow. And he's investigating something called the Devil's Ledger. There's a lot of murder, satanic intrigue, World War II. There's a little bit of Nazis in there as well, a little bit of the evil Nazi occult stuff in there too. So it's all in there. It's blended together. And this is the first in a series. And it's coming out from Cosby Media. It's being launched on Christmas Eve because everybody likes a good Christmas supernatural thriller. But it's set in World War II in London during the Blitz. So it's an interesting premise. So this is something that we're kind of doing together. It's also under the auspices of XG3. We are hoping that this then becomes a film or television adaptation, which is very possible. So yeah, folks, there you go. This is coming out. I think this will be possibly my last book of the year. However, I do have one more Terminator novel, which might come out next week.
You actually do have a few other
Yeah.
there's some other works that are coming out. So
people are sick of this. I know they are.
There's
But
this is it's worthy. It is worthy. So yes, thank you for picking up the gauntlet on the Devil's Ledger. And it was an idea that George and I just tossed around, and we wrote out a small synopsis, and it clicked with you, and we appreciate that. And so now we have the first novel, and I think it's a trilogy story for
trilogy. Yeah, trilogy's been agreed, and there's I think I can say actively we're looking at an adaptation. So that's an active thing that's going on at the minute, and we'll see how that goes. But it's always a lot of fun. Like we've John here, we've got Tipsy. We're all George. We're all members of XG3, and we are moving together and creating our own IPs, and the whole thing. And I mean, we get this from Craig as well. It's the fun of creation. It's and that's what XG3 is all about, and delivering that form of entertainment that people love. And what I love about that cover that was that Braxton's team created was that it's another homage to something that you've done, Pete, and touched on, is the world of the shadow.
Yep.
There's a little bit of that in there too. So I like that.
Oh yeah, which is fantastic. But there's a couple of other projects that we wanted to highlight, because everybody, the fans, like this stuff anyway, as is. And you have there's some of your work coming up in Phantasmagoria.
Yeah. Phantasmagoria is an award-winning fantasy horror magazine.
Yeah.
I won a Rondo Hatton horror award for some of my stuff. I mean that I did that. But anyway, this is the latest issue, and I'm in this one. So I've got some fiction in there.
Awesome.
And it's a privilege to be involved in this. I mean, there's a lot of like Stephen Jones. He's a very prominent UK horror editor. He was involved in the books like the Mammoth Book of Zombies, the Mammoth Book of Frankenstein, the Mammoth Book of Dracula. When I was a kid growing up, I was doing that. And we can plug his book, Videotapes from Hell, which is all about the 80s horror videotape phenomenon.
Oh, cool.
Which I don't know a lot about because I wasn't born, but I've been told it's a very good book. But yeah, I'm very grateful for being included again in an award-winning magazine like Phantasmagoria.
Is that available on Amazon?
It's available on Amazon, Forbidden Planet in the UK, and various other good bookshops in the US.
And so there's also then the Celestial Toy Room, I think it's.
Yes, I'm a kind of regular contributor to Doctor Who.
Cool.
For good or for ill. And I love this cover because there we have Tom Becker's robot.
Great. I just watched that it's like a 4-part episode. I just finished watching that last month. So
yes.
Yeah.
It's great, so I'm a big fan of the Fourth Doctor. That's
my favorite.
I've written some fiction in there, Fourth Doctor fiction and stuff like that. But this is the official Doctor Who fan group. It's been about since the 70s, and a lot of very famous Doctor Who writers cut their teeth here. I think this is the 10th time I've been in it in 2 years. But I just, this is one of my favorite covers because it's got Tom there and the robot. This is available. It's available in Forbidden Planet, and you can order it from the Doctor Who Appreciation Society as well, if you want to. The other big Doctor Who thing that's come out this year that I didn't supply you an image of is I'm in the Doctor Who Annual again this year.
Oh, fantastic.
And I've actually created some Doctor Who new top trump cards, which are, I think, out in January.
And what
So
are
I
those?
saw these top trump cards are they're based on the Paul McGann Doctor, the 8th Doctor, and the Christopher Eccleston's Doctor, the 9th Doctor. So all of their villains and bits and pieces, and I've created stats for them and the little blurbs. So they're due out early next year, very early next year. So I've done that as well. And yeah, I'd say I've got a continuing relationship with Doctor Who and the spin-offs and books, and I'm working with Simon Fisher Becker at the minute, who is Deloria Moldovar in the Matt Smith series, and we're working on something very special for Doctor Who fans that
And-
might be out next year as well.
Okay, so that's, I mean, and so saying that you're just gonna have maybe one more come out. There's at least, I'm sure there may be some others.
As long as I'm tolerated by the BBC, yes. Right.
Okay.
I mean, every writer's got a shelf life for something, right?
Okay.
So you just, but I'm having fun with it.
Well, let me ask you this then. An RPG guide and an RPG game, that's just something else you're just coming out with.
Yeah. So we do have this for fans of the Stranded Warrior. And
yeah.
Battlestar
Here we go.
fans. I was committed to doing this. And this is a sincere thank you to everybody who has supported Stranded Warrior and who watches. We are giving these books away free at Christmas. So we have this is the Colonial Officer's Manual, which is a full 170-page RPG book. We have a Cylon handbook because I had to do that for Tipsy, and that's it's a
right.
Where was
Yep.
that? Where was that fucking bleeper for me?
Easy.
Anyway, so we've got we've got the Cylon handbook, which is about 70, 80 pages, and then we have a weapons guide, which is another 50, 60 pages. Now, in addition to that, we all know at Christmas you all like playing board games and things like that. So,
yeah.
courtesy of ABC Games, which I'm a co-founder and creator of, a tabletop game company, we are going to run a Stranded Warrior RPG session, 2 of them actually, between Christmas and New Year. And this is a campaign that I've written. It's roughly about 50 pages long, which you all will get. You'll all get access to, and you can play through it as well. And there's another one. So one Tipsy will love, because Tipsy will get revenge.
Great.
Possibly.
Cylons always win.
No, not exactly.
We might. The deck is stacked against the Colonials in this first one, I'll be honest. However, and all you need to play this.
I'll drink to that. Yeah.
Is a I knew you would start from you start getting into the ball. The bottle's just like the mother's teat to that, man. But then the second one is space combat.
Yep.
So we have two. So this is really to showcase what you can do playing through these RPGs. Now we're giving these away absolutely free.
Yes, we are.
And this is our commitment to the fandom. So expect these dropping around maybe Christmas Eve. If you look up in the sky and you see somebody going across with reindeers, just like this individual here, holding a pint.
Yeah.
You may be able to download.
If you ask Count Ibley nicely, he will deliver it for you.
Yes, so
Tipsy, you are not paying attention to Bert's presentation earlier. There's a subtle difference between Satan and Santa, and
just a little letter.
If you're dyslexic, you might on Christmas Eve wake up shagging a succubus. So maybe that squids in.
See,
or you might get presents there coming down the tree. But there you go. But yeah.
Well, thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, ABC Games, Andy Brown, and thank you, Dr. McAuley, for helping promote the Stranded Warrior with an RPG game set in that world. So there's a lot of original characters, as well as some of the Stranded Warrior characters that appear in the actual RPG. And so yeah, we'll be doing a run through just to make sure everything is running, correctly, and then once that gets done, we will be releasing it to everyone. We have done really well with the Stranded Warrior trailer and movie poster. Of course, everybody should know by now that we've won 5 international film festivals for best trailer, right? So that's not best sci-fi trailer, just best trailer in competition. So that's remarkable. And of course, the movie poster win again was not a best science fiction movie poster win. It was,
there we go again.
We talk about Tar Protocol.
Yes, we can, absolutely.
No, this was your brainchild, the Tar Protocol.
Yes, it was,
and it's very close to completion.
Super close.
Tipsy's been involved in this as well.
100%. Yes, he is.
It's very exciting. It's very
special
exciting.
Effects.
Yeah.
We are about, I would say, 97 to 98% picture lock, which then would bring us to we did the opening credits, just created those. They look fantastic. We were down to, I believe, 1 or 2 very small effects that had to be put in, and then closing credits. Once we lay in the music, there is like one other voiceover that we're gonna need to slightly work on a bit, and we're very close to a release. Then of course, we will be building out another trailer. Hopefully that will be well received. So trailer, and then the movie poster. I met with the artist, a fellow film student named Sharif, and he is working on that, and he is very talented. It's going to look fantastic. So we'll be entering all of that into competition. We have high hopes. We have an audio drama.
Oh, yes.
To the Tower Protocol Resurrection.
Yes.
So that is the Resurrection is the next installment. The first installment was just Tower Protocol. 20 years ago was the first short indie film that I had done, and when I first went to film school, and now going back to film school, I learned a lot more, and then with the help of everybody involved, we shot the Resurrection, and we bring back the central character, and of course, the backstory to all. And with your help, Dr. McAuley, hopefully we intend to do a novel. You've already scripted a comic book for it, so we're going to do some things.
Yes, we have a very special artist for that one. The comic book, James Bond artist, but I'm not really allowed to talk about that. But right. I just have. But no, it's and the original Tar Protocol is still available on PBS, isn't it? It's still it does get repeats. It does get repeats in the PBS.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. It was that. It basically was the original Tar Protocol film that convinced me to get involved in this.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's
really
part of it.
it.
Part of it is on public access in Queens, which can get viewership of, back in the day, anywhere from, 60 to 100,000 people would watch public access television
Yeah.
in at least in Queens and Manhattan. All the boroughs have different numbers and stuff. And it's been playing on public access television in the borough of Queens and New York City for the last 20 years. On and
And
off,
you,
they've been playing it every year, multiple times in the year. And I've had strangers come up to me
yeah.
and ask me about there was like, oh, you did the Tower Protocol. I'm like, yeah. When are we ever going to see the other half of it? I'm like, well, sorry, buddy. I didn't leave the whole thing.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I believe that John One had helped out when I was doing part of my initial filming. He was, yep, yep, he was there helping out, and so yeah, we have there's potential. It's a great story, and we've done we've explored characters and the like. So it's labor of love, great story, and with your help, Dr. McAuley, and of course, this is in conjunction with Tipsy Toaster Productions.
Yeah.
So all of these projects are one way or the other all it's all in the family here. So we are very proud of everything that we've been doing.
Well, this is it. You and John should be very proud of the original, and like Tipsy's got an incredible amount of skill now with
Oh, that's for sure.
that laugh. Frack off for that laugh. I've been watching your progression.
Oh, yes.
It's really
Absolutely.
good, mate. It's
Yep.
fantastic.
Yep.
And what you're doing for Tower Protocol, it's amazing. You've created this virtual world in Unreal Engine 5, and it's very atmospheric. So there you go. But yeah, I just wanted to mention Tower Protocol because that's an ongoing franchise. Next year, we're going to see comic books, we're going to see novels, we're going to see audios, we're going to see games in there as well. That's already solidified. So, it's going to be an entire military science fiction horror universe to go and play in. And the fans have helped us with this. So this is all about giving back to you guys. And if you're a subscriber to IFB, you might get a few extras.
That's right. As a matter of fact, we've been tabulating, speaking of extras, your story for Lieutenant Bojay will be accompanying all of the autographs. So we've been putting together our list and getting it ready for Jack Stauffer to be autographing those pictures. So that's in the works as well. So thank you to everybody that put in an order for Jack Stauffer to sign those 8x10s of him as Lieutenant Bojay. And so that's in the works. That's moving along. Tipsy Toaster is tip of the spear on that. And then, like I told you, everybody will be getting them. We'll give you updates. Everybody be getting the updates. And so I believe we did close the sign up for it. I believe we've collected everything.
Yeah, we're I think we're just about finished collecting. We had one person left, and that person already paid. So now I'm in the process of putting it all together, sending it to Jack, and I'm gonna mail him some good markers just so we have perfect markers and everything on it too. So
yes, because he asked for them. So he's done this before. Obviously, he's been to convention, so he told us this is what I need. You guys get me this. I have the pictures, and we will, we'll get them autographed and sent out. So that's moving along. And with that said, we have John 1, and we have a great right. We're gonna close out our show, our segments with John 1's hey John, what's up? Good.
Coming.
Yeah,
Good stuff coming for the rest of the year.
You picked out some really cool things that you wanted to bring us up to speed with, so it's all you, man.
All right. It's Christmas time, so you need a little horror to go with your show. So the first up is Werewolves. It's out now. It's about a scientist and his family who find themselves in a fight for their lives when a supermoon turns everyone else into bloodthirsty werewolves, so they have to try to escape. So that's Frank Grillo's in it, so it's pretty good. So it's like a little low budget horror show, but it's fun. Get away for a little while. Well, that's out now in theaters now. Check it out. So it's pretty cool. And this next film from director Robert Eggers. Robert Eggers is he's made some pretty good, pretty weird but scary shows like The Northman, The Lighthouse, and The Witch. His next film has 94% on Rotten Tomatoes already. It's a remake of Nosferatu. That's due in theaters December 26th. So the cinematography is amazing, and so many scenes are a tribute to like the original Murnau film. Like when he's going out to the castle in the mountains, the beach, the cemetery area. It's just like that, and also the one in '76 that Klaus Kinski did. So many scenes like that. But this is going to be a great movie. I mean, I'm so excited for it. I'm even going to buy the little crypt thing for the popcorn.
Oh,
yeah. Dennis Defoe's in it. Johnny Depp's daughter's in it.
wow.
A lot of good cast, and it's just going to be amazing. I mean, just looking at the trailers now, I'm like, oh, I'm looking forward to seeing this. That's going to be my Christmas gift. So check it out, December 26th.
Cool.
And let's see. And early with the, I don't know. So, and also out now tomorrow, 13th, back to Middle Earth with the War of the Rohirrim. Set before, The Hobbit. Years ago, it's about warring clans seeking revenge against each other. Some Rohan. Brian Cox is in it. It's a great animation. It's set up like anime, but it's like different. It reminds me like the old Lord of the Rings shows. But it should be pretty good. It's like 2 hours long, and it's out tomorrow. So check out Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim. Also out in theaters is Craven. And everyone who's a Spider-Man fan knows that Craven is one of his biggest enemies. But okay, I can understand. It's a prequel of how Craven became Craven the Hunter. But okay, I really don't. It's a waste of a movie, but I would like to see Craven hunting Spider-Man in the city like he does. Hunting him like the comic books scene. Not how not seeing Craven being made by being bit by a radiated lion. Spider-Man's villains. Spider-Man's villains.
How original!
Spider-Man. Yeah. You get bit by something, it turns into this high-powered Craven hunt. Oh, come on.
Nah.
Spider-Man villains need Spider-Man. That's it. So no more. All right. I think they would learn that from Madam Web, but I guess not. So guess 3-pointer right in the garbage. See how long that's going to stay in the theaters. So it's already getting bad reviews, and that's on the 13th. So another origin story. This time Dexter, Original Sin, out in Paramount on December 13th. This tells the origin story of how Dexter became the serial killer that we all, root for and love when he was a young kid, and how his father had to tame him and teach him to the serial killer vigilante they turned out to be a regular series. So that's very good. So, and that's it. Let's see. James Gunn has finally released one of his first series since he took over DC on HBO Max, Creature Commandos. Some of it's pretty funny. Some of it's gory scenes. It looks pretty good. It's different to an animated series. Alan Tudyk's in it. So he's Dr. Phosphorus. He burns people. But some parts is pretty good. I think the third season's out now. Third episode's out now. So check it out on HBO Max. And that's pretty good. And I still think it's a good series. But I'll wait till Peacemaker 2 comes out next year. I will watch it. And for the Creatures for Live Robots, if you also the Blood and Robots or Love and Robots on Netflix, remember that series? The makers of that put a series on Prime now called Biggest Secret Level. It's an anthology series just like Love and Robots, but it's based on comic book. Video game shows. Like Pac-Man, Metal Gear, and also there's a Warhammer episode in it. That's just awesome. Yeah. Episode 5, and it's really good. I mean, I watched it like 2 times already.
Titus is in it.
Yep.
Go watch it.
It just boom, high power. That was really good. So check that out on Max, and you'll enjoy it. And Clayface seems to be the flavor of the month now over at DC. Alan Tudyk has been cast as the new voice of Clayface. And James Gunn's DC Universe, they're going to make a series like Penguin. I don't really want to see Payface, but see it on a standalone movie. I'd rather see Ziz or someone like really good. That's a really good character. Ziz. He was the guy that would kill people and mark his body. That's I want to see. Standalone on that. So that's out. And another series. They're working on another series about The Question. You guys remember that? The Question, the comic book?
Yeah.
The detective?
Yeah.
That's in development at DC now, too.
Oh, boy.
The Question Mark. That was the last episode in 2022. I had only 8 episodes. But hopefully this one will be better. James Lovett ranked The Question as number 3. Number 3 and 5 of the greatest detectives in comics. So...
Okay. When are we getting a Shadow? When are we getting a Shadow series? Come on, because The Question's just a knockoff Shadow. And if you look at the dialogue of The Question in the comics, it's problematic how you would get that authentic dialogue. Because remember, it's always a question. The dialogue's always a question.
That's
right. I would love to see the Shadow as a DC comic animation.
Oh, that would be awesome.
DC can't do that because it would be popular, and DC can't make anything with crap. So.
Popular, nothing good. They got to rip off for it.
Everything they make is crap. So,
and Man Cave has just released a new Dick Tracy series too. So get it over the comic book store.
I'm happy about that. Really happy. I love Dick Tracy.
Oh, Man Cave is really great. If the Flash Gordon one is pretty good too now too.
Yeah, so, I've read it, and I've read Defenders of the Earth. John, have you read it? The Defenders of the Earth comic, the new ones?
I haven't read the Defenders of the Earth yet. I've read Flash Gordon. But
really good. Grab it. It's totally sequel to the TV series that came out in, I think, 87. So really, really good.
I'm going to look that up. All right. I'm reading a lot of E and C comics. The sci-fi and the horror ones are pretty good. So... And that's it, everybody. That's what I have. Hope you have a happy New Year and happy holidays.
Forgot one.
Outstanding.
Forgot one.
Oh, Squid Games 2 is coming out on December 26th. He's going to go back to the popular Korean film. Have to survive or they get killed. And he went to go back to try to stop the game now, and it should be pretty funny. We're doing a lot of publicity games for it. They just did that in Paris where you had to do like the girl and you had to stop. Simon Says, Simon Run. So they did that in Paris just to promote the movie. So check that out. December 26th on Netflix. Squid Games 2. See if he survives.
They need, what they need to do? They need to actually do the backstory to the brother and how he became the head guy. That's what I think they should do. Is like, the head guy's backstory and the brother, right? Those are the two. That would be really cool because it goes into the, where it came from, how it developed and stuff. I think that's where they should go, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see if it does. It's gonna be there's gonna be part 3 and everything else too. So that's just a wildly popular show.
Of course, like everything else. Well, John, thank you, man.
Hey guys,
appreciate it. And thank you for bringing Craig Miller to IFB. That was a really cool thing. What a great interview. And he's worked on all these great things. And I know that Dr. McAuley and I love the real Ghostbusters animated, the cartoon, the show. So I knew that's why I brought it up more than once, because I knew that it would pique his interest.
First season used to be on school. It used to be on at the school during weekdays, the first season. And then it was Saturday morning cartoons.
I think I skipped it and was watching G.I. Joe instead.
G.I. Joe,
Joe.
Right. So my backstory of all of this is in Northern Ireland, we got these things 10 years later than you guys did. So we got real Ghostbusters, I think, about 1988. And then they played it on ITV. G.I. Joe we never got. We had something called Action Force.
Oh, that's right.
Which was the European stuff. And I've written articles about Action Force, G.I. Joe, and Palantoy and how they took that stuff on. But it was we had Transformers come over to us in 87. Turtles came to us, I think, roughly about the same time. It was about 89, 1990. All those animations. Incredibly nuanced, very detailed, a hell of a lot better than what's out there now. I'm sorry.
Sure.
I mean, those cartoons were very powerful, and I even think anime was a lot better than whenever you look at Akira, Ghost in the Shell, Vampire Hunter D, all of that stuff. A lot more nuanced now. Everything's very simplistic and really bloody boring for kids. But as adults, we can sit and go back and we can watch all these things like Real Ghostbusters. And some of those episodes are really scary. You go back and you look at them, they're really scary. But it was a complete privilege to, chat to Craig about Real Ghostbusters and
it was really cool.
So, incredible, great episode, guys. Fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
Thanks for having me on for this one.
Oh no, it's a pleasure. As a matter of fact, you promised that you would make that call and Santa would make an appearance. I believe it's next week. Our next show.
Well, I can't make any promises on behalf of Santa. I don't know who Santa is.
I can bet you I can get Count Ebley to show up.
Yeah,
I know I can get Count Ebley to show up on you.
Yeah, but he's not going to deliver any welcome Christmas presents.
Yeah, no, he's not.
Oh, yeah, he can promise you the world.
I'm sure he can.
So we are here on IFB. We've put the word out, and Saint Nick may show up.
He may.
Yeah, he may make an appearance. So that's it. That looks like it may or may not happen next episode, next show, which would be next Thursday on the 19th.
Peter wouldn't need to happen next week.
So,
Imperious Leader Clause will show up.
Yes, that's right. Chris, can you pull up Bert Oliver still with us so we could just close out with if it's at all possible.
Excellent set, Bert. That was an excellent set.
Yeah, it was.
Just one.
It was.
Yeah, it's buttons, man. Press them all at the same time. Overload and just
give me a second.
Just make it all disappear in one shot. But listen, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. We had a fantastic show. It was, all decks on hand. Thank you again to Craig Miller. Thank you to Doc McAuley. Thank you to Bert Oliver Bomer. And of course, John One, thank you. Chris, you're the technical director. You're the one that you make the broadcast happen and go over, the magic of the interwebs. So thank you for doing that. And thank you to everybody that watches, all of you guys that were on live. And then thank you to everybody that watches this later. So it's incredible.
Bert's a little low. It looks like what do they call it thing? Kilroy.
So thank you guys. Yes. Thank you for tuning in, guys. We really, really appreciate it. And again, if you guys are looking to pick up any of those books that we talked about, including Bert's, of course, we gave you links. Please use the links if you can. And we love having you. Don't forget to click likes. The likes also help us for the algorithms and everything else that Meta uses. So that's important. If you want to contact us, you know that we're at info@interfleetbroadcasting.com. Thank you again. Stay safe. See you at the next show. Keep the faith, and remember that fans fuel the fleet. Here's to all you guys.
Fans fuel the fleet.
Fans fuel the fleet.
Fans fuel the fleet.
Could add Bert to that one now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
Well, everybody, that's all.